it's been interesting. Like almost all the tutorials I've come across in terms of JSON, like manipulating JSON,
Hmm.
are very focused on unnesting
Yeah.
JSON and getting
Yeah.
it into.
Per is the best package in the world
Yeah,
for all this stuff.
but I ran across hardly anything to tell you how to nest things appropriately in JSON. Like if you're moving data from R
Hmm.
back into JSON
Hmm.
and you want it nested in a certain way, it's like reverse engineering everything. We have one standard format
Yeah.
where they're sending JSON
Uh
and
huh.
it's nested and everything, right? So I am going to unnest that
Uh huh.
and rename a bunch of shit
Yeah.
and nest it totally differently to a very specific specification that QuickBooks wants or that Zero wants.
Got it.
Um,
So it has
and
to
like so,
look a certain way.
yeah, and so when you like want something nested like 4 levels deep, but you want that thing to be a string,
Hmm.
or like a key value pair instead of being like an array, a JSON array, like
Yeah.
what you do in R, how you nest it matters because it'll end up being a different like
Well,
type in JSON.
type would matter in that nesting process, right?
Right.
So if
Right.
you had uh, like a nested data frame inside of your whatever, like yeah, you'd have to think about how that translates from the to the to JSON function.
Yeah, and I didn't have any like I don't have any problems
Yeah.
with that. It took me a while to figure out because like everybody's tutorials, like when you Google for anything to do with R and JSON, everything is how do I unnest this data? And I was like, no, how
Man.
do I nest it?
Yeah, yeah, that would be
What's
a
the best
really
way?
good exercise though. Like to have to give people some data and then to create like a really annoying JSON file created from that data and just tell people like try and work on your nesting skills and build this awful, well, not awful, but just like a JSON that has all those different types in there. And I think
It
that that
is.
would be really interesting because I'd be willing to bet that you could create like a little list or data like a list of data frames or something, and a list of like nested blah blah blah, and then get back have those side by
Yeah.
side with the JSON, so then you could see like, oh, okay, well, if I want to have this type of level, then it would like kind of translate to this thing. Because I would think that your data going into to JSON would have to somehow be similar to the structure of the JSON itself.
Yeah, I ended up having to build a little function that nests things inside of like as its own little tibble inside of a cell of
Yeah,
a data frame. So I just built a function to do that, and then I just call it whenever I want to nest something. And
yeah.
I built another function on top of that that's nest deeply, and then you can just feed it a list, like not even a list, a character vector of
Yeah.
names, and it'll just add names, and you just keep recursively nesting things.
Huh.
Uh,
You should. I'd be interested to see this if it's shareable, but if not, that's totally
I
fine.
assume it is. I
Okay.
mean, I
Yeah.
can
I
send
mean, if
it to
it's
you.
not, if it doesn't have any like data in it, then yeah.
No, um, I'm not saying that it's a perfect solution. It's just what I came up with, and it seemed to work. So,
No, I would just be interested to see what it looks like, for sure. Well, I think
maybe halfway through.
have you and I talked about the similarities between a a list and a well, not the similarities. So if I'm thinking about a list and a matrix and a data frame or a tibble in R, they're they're like it's like a little triangle, right? Because a data frame is a list and it's a matrix. And if you understand how a matrix works and you understand how a list works, then like you could use all of those operations on a data frame, if that makes sense. I can
Yeah, I
convince,
think
yeah,
so too.
I mean, I could convince
It's
you of it. I don't know if anyone else is going to come real quick, but I think that it's a good thing to think about. Um, whenever you're writing code, just to kind of think about the internals here. Um, so the book here, it just kind of goes through how you could, select in order, which is straightforward. Like, this isn't really worth talking about a whole lot. But then he goes into, talking about subsetting matrices and then into data frames and tibbles. And so a lot of what he talks about up above is just how to select things, right, or subset. So empty cars is a data frame, right? If we were to look at it,
Yeah.
there's it comes back as a data frame. Now, one thing that I think is important to know about the difference between the a data frame and a tibble is that um, whenever you're selecting a column, and a data frame will give you back a vector, but if you select a single column in a tibble, and
It
we were
comes back as a tibble. I think
yeah,
that's I've been frustrated by that before. Like if it's a data frame and I subset it and it comes back as a vector and then it's a different type.
right,
Um, like if you feed it to a function a different, yeah, yeah, that can cause unexpected behavior if your function um what is it? Yeah, if your function is meant to operate on a data frame, but because of whatever's coming through that, it like selects the first column or something. Yeah,
right. Well, and see, it's stupid because this is what you get right here, right? You get your data frame back, but just because you selected one,
oh,
you
are you
oh,
meaning
I am, but it god dang. Yeah. So yeah, so we've got empty cars here, and we're selecting cylinder and MPG, but the moment that we pull away MPG, we get a vector, which is stupid. But this preserves the structure so that you don't have different outputs, given on how you've subsetted your data. Um, but what I was gonna say is so that's kind of the big difference between the tibble and data frame. But so we could coerce empty cars to a list. Cars list is equal to as dot list empty cars. And oh, that's empty cats. That would be a fun one. Um, so a data frame is a list. So there's an interesting function called unclass, and if you pass it to empty cars as well, you find out that empty cars is actually a list, right? It's
Yeah.
just a list with some S3 class stuff under it. Um,
what is unclass doing here?
so
It's
empty
just stripping the most what stripping some sort of yeah. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so empty cars, if we did class um, empty cars here, we
Yeah.
see that it's a data frame. But a data frame under the hood is actually a list of equal length atomic vectors.
So when you do unclass, it just strips away
You
the
just,
primary class.
yeah, so you just get like,
Yeah. When you unclass it, you see the structure and then the attributes. It splits them both and gives you like a list output with it. Because you can see
Oh,
when you do the unclass output, you see one of the outputs is the HETR. It's the attributes for the object.
yeah. Okay. That's just a function I don't know if I've ever used. I've seen it
yeah,
Yeah,
before.
it's
well,
it's actually really like all of these that are like store and explore, like when you're that whole like store an object and explore what the object is made of. I think unclass was one of those that I finally figured out when I was working with a ton of lists because sometimes the output from class. What's the other one that's really common, Freddie? Is it type of? Is that the other?
yeah, you could do type of. So we get our dollar sign from the list, the concept of a list in R. So if we run empty cars cylinder, and then we do empty cars list cylinder, I'd have to create it again. We get the same thing. So that's why whenever you're thinking about if you're using per and you're using a mapping function, um, it acts exactly as it would if you were mapping over a list or with a data frame or a tibble. So if we did empty cars, this and just pass it into the mapping function. Oh my goodness, here. Then we kind of get the same thing back. So it goes over the columns because the mapping function is working on it like it's a list. Whenever you're thinking about filtering your data or working with your data, to think, or at least to kind of like know the difference between all of these, and that's list gives you your dollar sign, and you could subset, um, you know, that way, or you could also work with it like a matrix. So I don't know if anyone's ever like thought about um, data frames in that way. But maybe you have. I don't know.
One of the things, this is just one of those sidebars that always blows my mind about R is like how many, you know, functional object-oriented programming. So in R, it's either a function or an object. And so it is always interesting because I think operators get thrown into this, like this other term operators come out.
Hmm.
But if you like, if Freddie, if you take the class function and then you supply just a single bracket inside your backticks,
Hmm.
check out what kind of check out what
Okay,
kind
sure. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know
So I'll reshare it here. Sorry. I get it.
boom, that's actually a function,
Right, right. Yeah. Okay. So,
right? Because the thing is, in the terminology, you'll read like, oh well, the bracket operator or the bracket symbol or whatever, but it's remember that it's either a function or it's an object, right? Like it's one or the
mhm,
other. Functions are technically objects, but it's just one of those things that like the assignment operator is a function, right?
yeah.
Like all of the things that you're going to encounter, yeah, you can do a whole bunch of, I mean, every possible operator you throw in there, you'll see it's a function. Or, I mean, if you create an object, it's an object.
Yeah, I'm thinking about how you would how would you would conceptualize that as a function, because I kind of get it, right? But like whenever I think about R, there's like this movie in my head of that data that's flowing in a way. And so, I
Well,
think
I
there's
think about it like it's like a derivations away from, because if you think about the simplest function, it's concatenate, right? Just the letter C,
hmm
right? And then it's like, okay, so then if you have concatenate, that's going to just create an object with however many, you know, however much information you put inside of it. It's like you also would need another function that takes concatenate and assigns it to something, which is where you get the
hmm
assignment operator.
yeah.
That's
Actually,
also a function.
yeah. No, actually, I think it's funny because we're talking about this as a function, and we're talking about this function here, the left bracket. But it's also just a really great place to check out down here the documentation for all the filtering, which is what was being discussed in this particular chapter. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Also, I was going to mention piping things into the left bracket. Kind of, you have to think of it as a function in that way.
well,
Yeah,
so
because you can pipe directly to a bracket because it's a function.
oh
Well,
yeah, well I've done this before,
exactly. Yeah, that's well.
but
You don't the
you're
one.
saying to put that there. I don't think that you can actually do that though.
No, no, no. Put the dot there
Uh huh.
and then get rid of the one. Or
Oh,
yeah. I mean, just
hold on.
you have
Sorry.
to have open and closed brackets. I think you have to escape. You're on the second line.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, so say that again.
Just put in a closed bracket. Go to. Sorry, go to
Yeah, just a single open, single close.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Like that.
with the dot before it.
Okay, gotcha.
That'll just pipe it in there, which doesn't really do anything.
But it proves the point, right? It proves the point that it's just giving you a return function for. I mean, because that's what the bracket does, right? It's a way of subsetting it. You just said send everything back.
Yeah, I mean,
Take the entire data object and subset it.
yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? So now that we're thinking about that, right? Is then my thought is something like this: is that the same thing as just doing this twice. Like if I had, um, well, say I had what if this was a list? Okay, so yeah, so let me show you. Let me show this real quick. As dot list empty cars, and if we do this, it's gonna give us the first thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, in the list, but it's still printed out as part of that list, right? But if we do this double subset, then we get back the thing itself. And so then I was wondering, is there a way to write something like this as dot list and then pipe, and then what if we did that? Would it be like doing the same thing? No, it's not. So you would still have to. You would still
Oh
have
yeah,
to.
you mean is it? Yeah, you were seeing if you could just dig layer by layer
Yeah, no, yeah, but I guess
using
that
that.
doesn't
Yeah.
really make sense though, because of just because of the fact that like this is saying just give me the first thing in that thing. But there was a part of
Yeah,
me
and
that
I
was
think
like,
it's
it would be kind of cool if it was like some sort of recursive something. But
yeah, we're just clicked on peeling
yeah,
back layers. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I'm curious if you can do. So one of the things that I do when I have to go constantly retrieve. So if you have like date organized, so somebody puts a date at the front of a data set in like a GitHub repo or someplace, and so you know that if you sorted them, they would be you sort them descending, you would get the first date at the top. And so I use the FS package a lot for this, where I just take the directory info and then I sort it by path because that's going to give me the top file. But I wanted to spit back a vector, and of course, because it's in the tidyverse, like it spits out this tibble every time. So I have to coerce the single line at the top of that directory info. I use pers as vector, but I've always like that's one of those. I wish I could easily just throw a bracket in there and say, nope, just give me the first boom item at the top. It's not as clear though. Per as vector says what you're doing,
Um,
so like a lot
it
of times.
Martin, I think I have the exact same use case. I've done it quite frequently. I'm pretty sure how I solved that was with slice. You want the top
Oh,
row?
because you can slice by position, right?
Yeah, so
yeah.
just slice one, and then
There
just
we go.
as
Yeah,
character or something.
yeah,
That,
there we go. I was using per as vector because it was like that way it would per as vector would give me it would spit out the name of the variable, which is path, and then of course the data file in the path. So that way that was still contained in the object that I was spitting out, but I really don't need that. I just need the value in the vector. I'm gonna try it right now because I
so
actually have
I'm kind of
um,
curious to see it. Yeah, if you could share your screen and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that
Let
would
me
be really cool. Okay, so I'll pull this up. Hey Christian, no big deal. I just muted you so that you could type. Just let me know if you wanna chat.
So I have a directory in here with data, and it has a single
Yeah.
it has a
Okay.
bad name. It has a single data set in that.
Yeah.
Um, so if I want to read this in, I'm going to use this guy. And so what I usually just do, because I want just the path, and then I'm going to do arrange descending by path again. And this is not as clear because if I had more data sets in here, you'd see why I'm doing this. But this is going to give me the top single path and file.
Sure.
And so this is where I was, where what I was doing was there's a per function called as vector. And so what this does, it gives out a named vector. So I get path and then the actual value for path.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're saying is that you can also use dplyer's slice by position and just go one.
But it does
That's still a tibble.
as dot vect or as dot character afterwards was what I think I had to do.
So what was it that you're trying to create at the end? Like you want the vector or?
So here, I'll show you. Yeah, so you go like this, and then you just take and pass it to
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Boom, regional data set. And this every time gets you the most recent data.
Oh, you're just
This is
sort.
a failsafe.
Oh, so this is
So
like.
yeah, this is like imagine a directory full of, and this is the case in most of the COVID data sets, like the one from Hopkins and the other one, from I think it's like the Economist has another one, but they're all time and date stamped as a prefix. So you get 2020 08, right? So they're all listed that way. So if you actually pull the repo info, the metadata, and then you use that in a tibble to sort it by path, you'll end up with the most recent one at the top and the last one at the bottom. And
Mhm.
so you a lot of times like what I want to do is just update my dashboard with the most recent data set. So I'll just take and slice off that top, that top row in the directory info and pass it over to read CSV.
So is this only really practical if you just have a ton of data, right? Because it seems like what you're trying to avoid is reading in too much information.
Yes, exactly. So otherwise, you just point at the
Well,
directory and you do a mapping function to bring them all in, right? But a
Right.
lot of times, it's like I just want to because if you're setting it up, if you know they're getting daily data updates, this is a great thing if you're setting it to, if you're setting it to a scheduled job.
Sure.
It's
yeah,
like you
it's
just
the
go to this directory, bring in the most recent.
same thing with me. I have like a couple data engineering processes where it's like somebody's gonna put a file in a folder somewhere, and I just want the last one. So in my case, I don't sort on path. I sort on like modified date or something like that.
Hmm.
But
Okay, yeah.
want the
Well, it's
last
yeah.
uploaded to a
You're
folder.
definitely safer. Yeah, that's definitely smarter to go to the metadata than the path because I'm depending on them naming it correctly, right? The metadata would actually contain the actual last time it was modified, right? So
The,
you're
the
probably
funny
better
thing
off sorting on that.
the funny thing is I went to Twitter last night. I was deleting a lot of my tweets like from from a long time back. I ran across the exact same thing where I copied and pasted this code and it was in a tweet and someone was saying, "Oh, that doesn't work for my use case because the last modified date uh I can't trust it. Like sometimes they'll put old like they'll upload 5 files at the same time and some of them are old files."
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I was like,
Okay,
well, in
yeah.
my case it does, but other cases maybe it doesn't.
Right. Yeah. It seems like there should always be some sort of check in place, or like you should know that that's a point of failure potentially.
If you went to create, do they give you created date in the metadata?
I think they
The,
might. I don't know.
the,
You have to look at it.
yeah, so I think it's modified access time, change time. Okay, so yeah, you get access time, change time, and birth time. So you might, I don't know. That's still because all of them run into that issue of like, yeah, but unless it's an automated process, people could always just throw things in there that would have changed any one of those, right? If they regenerated one of the old ones or they updated some previous data set, it's probably better, yeah, to evaluate it on a case by case kind of basis.
So I was gonna show a couple more things. So um, screen two. There we go. Okay. So there's some fun functions for subsetting in per. Um, has anyone seen keep or
Oh,
discard?
that's yeah, we love that one.
Yeah. Um,
I use discard when nothing else will work.
so a lot of my code is like lists of data frames. So I'm purring all day. But yeah, so if you wanted to, you could iterate over your list object. And the reason why I'm talking about list filtering is just because like per is awesome, and I think everyone here already knows like subsetting for the other types of objects. But you could pass it a predicate function, and you could say three and x or something, right? And so, I mean, can we imagine what this might do? So if
I'm having trouble seeing your screen because it's
oh
like recursive. I see myself and it's trying to do that or
is
something.
that better?
Maybe, or maybe it's just me. Yeah, I see it now.
Okay, cool. So keep empty cars function. X, and then X and actually let's do 3 and X. So this is what's called a predicate function, which just means that we're returning a true or false. And so all of the per functions are going to go list-wise over data frames. It's going to go or column-wise. Um, so this, we could say if we wanted to just keep the columns in our data frame that have a 3, then you could do this, right? Um, Discard would do the opposite. Now, a lot of people use dplyr for this same kind of stuff, but sometimes it's more fun in per because they're just cool functions.
So something
Yeah.
that oh sorry,
Oh,
something that
No,
I've
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
that I run across from time to time is like I want to filter a list by a named element in that list. And I feel like there's no easy way to do it. You have to resort to like I don't know, a bunch of
well, let's check this out and tell me if this is useful at all. So, cars. Oops, I'm gonna do iWalk. So, are you saying something like this, where, and actually, I'm gonna do another, just like a cat uline, so we can separate this. So, iWalk will give you, both the name of the object and the object itself. Or are you saying like there's names within this thing that you want to, like, you have like a nested list within a list?
um okay, so this might explain it a little bit better. So if you have a data frame,
Mm-hmm.
you can just say data frame and then select MPG cycle whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
If your object is not a data frame, if it's a list,
Mm-hmm.
then if you still want to select those things, cycle, HP, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
um, the select uh, function won't work for you because it's not a data frame anymore.
Right.
Right. So, what is the best approach to essentially do the exact same thing,
Mm-hmm.
but on a list instead of a data frame without coercing it to a data frame first?
Oh, so sure. So let's just do as list empty cars, and then um, oops, and list. So we have this, and we just want to select select these things here,
Yeah, select like three of them at the same time.
just like that.
Yeah. So if I didn't want to remember the bracket functionality, is there actually like a function for this?
So I know that you could. I mean, I could try. Let's see here. In list. So I know pluck will give you the one thing, right? But I don't know if it translates to MPG.
Well, it also stripped away the name when it did that.
Right, 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 right. So what's it? There's pluck and chuck, and then there's default. I'm actually I'm curious now if there's like a function. I mean, we could always write it.
Literally, I always have to Google for this. Like, I just want a function that's like select from list that does this natively.
Yeah. Oh well. Let's see. Okay. So select from list function list calls, and then you would have list. else. I mean, something like that.
Maybe, but you wouldn't be passing it. Um, Let me see. Can you try
You
that?
would want it that like tidy syntax, or what
Yeah,
you don't want the you just want
I
to
don't want to
say like cylinder MPG.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Um,
Well, I mean, I'm surprised that there isn't something out there already. Is there?
well,
Like this?
probably I just don't know about it.
Should I submit a PR to Per for this?
You know, I would be more surprised if it didn't exist in here, because there are just so many in here, right? I haven't even gone into complete every no. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be able to find it right here, but I'd be surprised if there wasn't a pretty way to do this in Per, because they already have keep, or sorry, not keep, but pluck, right? So what's the pluck function? Well, but you still have to pass it. You still have to pass it this. It can't be. It can't be the. It can't be that syntax. Huh.
My guess is that there's an easy way to do it with keep, but I
Try
don't know what
hoist.
that is.
I
Well,
think is it hoist,
is it?
hoist or lift?
Um, oh, is there a hoist though? Lift.
Lift.
Well, let's just see
There
what.
was a,
Let's just see if it
there was an
does.
extract. I think there was an extract function too. I think I've encountered this now that you're describing it.
Well, let's see what this says. Oh no, this is different. This is passing a list of arguments to a single function, which is actually kind of cool. Um,
Oh, you know what? Hoist is from tidier.
oh, okay. Hoist. Hoist data, limit, simplify. Oh man, this is interesting here. What's this?
So
Copy.
that's if you have a data frame with list columns. That's the problem I encountered is I had a data frame with list columns.
Ah, yeah, that wouldn't be the same.
Mm-mm.
You know, what would be really stupid is if this worked. Oh, hold on. I don't think that it would. List. Yeah, no, it doesn't handle lists. You know, it'd be great is if they said, okay, well, what's the prettiest way to handle lists? I swear, there's got to be something to just like Google. Have you found? Has anyone seen a function that does that? Because I'm actually really surprised that that's not part of my repository of knowledge here.
No, I mean every time this becomes an issue, I'm like, okay, I have to resort to bracket notation.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Select. Nope, 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 nope. That's that's fascinating, actually. Extract single list element. So that function. Yeah, no, I can't see anything. That's really interesting. Select with. I found a PR right here. Everything's on GitHub, right? Probably too late to make this. So I mean, here's your PR that you said you wanted.
I mean, I agree. Like if you feed select a list, that's not going to work, and they probably shouldn't change it by now since select is used
Yeah,
everywhere. But like select from list or something,
yeah,
would be nice. I mean, just saying.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree. Well, that would be I. I'm gonna have to get off of here in a minute and just continue to search to see if someone's written this function. And if not, then I'm just gonna have to write it.
Yeah, so there's a Stack Overflow question from 2013 where somebody rewrote select that just goes takes an object and takes the name from it from a list,
Do you
but
have
they just
a
use the bracket notation.
right, right? Yeah, they just use brackets, and that's what I would end up doing. Is I would you use the bracket notation, and then you just throw some bangs on it, right?
Yeah,
Um, for your tidy, your just non-standard evaluation stuff.
Stack
Um,
Overflow question in the chat.
oh, okay, yeah,
It is pretty strange. I mean, like to me, that would be a perfect addition to the per set of functions, right? Because they
yeah,
have keep and they have these other ones. It seems like it would be a nice addition to just be able to use whatever the function is on a list the same way that you use select on a data frame or a
right,
table.
right, yeah. So I'm thinking, so if we did this select list empty cars, and then we did, I think that would still work. And then what if I did MPG? Nope. So I'd have to add um, I think this to actually get all of our things together. Calls, whatever calls. I think this would put it. Yeah. So then all you have to do is you have to convert this to non-standard evaluation, and I don't remember how to do that off the top of my head. But
It's a deep web.
right, right, right. So like it's basically almost there. It's just because because we hate having four extra ticks here, we'd have to do the NSE. Does anyone know how to do that? It's been so long since I've even tried. Because like tidy stuff is cool, but I've never really thought I have to have my package look like the tidy syntax.
I don't know off the top of my head. I've done it, and every time that I do it, I re forget how to do it.
Right? Yeah. Oh, here it is. And I don't want to keep anyone. I mean, if anyone needs to run, then that's totally fine. Don't feel guilty. But I can sit here and play and talk for a little bit while longer. Um,
Hopefully, it didn't derail you with this. If you had more to talk about on subsetting,
no, no. I mean, that was basically it. Is just kind of if you understand subsetting for lists and for matrices, then it makes understanding data frames easier. So here, um, dot 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 quos are. Here we go. So this is saying call this quos, I think, function df, and then what if I just did this? Qo, like that. Nope, I screwed it up. Um, so we could play with it. Hop in the browser here, and then we have calls. I don't even know how you would. Oh man, I could get super hacky, but there's got to be a function to just do this the right way. Oh wait, hold on. Um, calls, calls. Oh, so maybe that's not the right way to go about it. So here's the really stupid way to do this. I would actually feel very embarrassed if you actually saw me do this in real life. Um, str remove.
Are you gonna? Yeah, you're gonna remove. Yeah.
This is hacky AF. but it would be. See that's super hacky. Select list.
Wait, what did we just do?
Yeah, let's just see if it actually does, and then I'll explain it if it works. Um, list. Oh, sorry. I needed to do this as dot list. Oops. Browser.
Don't you need to remove the ticks?
Um, let's see. So we have calls here. Oh, yeah, and there's list. Well, I should probably not have it called this, but calls. Oh, it actually it didn't quite make it the way that I wanted it to. See, I told you it would be hacky. Um, list input. I don't want to call that the same thing as another function. So we've got our quos as character, and then I don't think that we wanted to do this quite yet. Yeah. Run it again. Oops, get out of there. I think it says that I'm still in the debugger. Restart R. How many times do you do this every day? Okay. Restart
Hundreds.
R. Right.
Oh yeah, that's my nuke it from orbit solution for most things.
Right. So, oh, we didn't want that there either. Oh my god. Okay. So, here we go. So calls. Yeah, there's all like okay. So for the sake of str stringer. Oops. So we have calls, but we only we only want we only want the names. So just forgive me. Forgive me. So we don't want those, and we don't want these. Oops. Oh my god. It's like you guys are looking at me, and that's the problem. Oh my god. Okay.
Do you need another call to remove all,
I
or do you need to change that reprex to sorry that regex
well,
to a
what we really need to do is just find the right
an
way
or
to
statement?
reverse that to a string. Actually, maybe if we just look at the documentation for quos. So dplyr rlang. Here we go. So there's quos on quo. Quos. Varsim. Nope. Capture. I just want to do tidy eval to string. Like that's what I should Google. Sim creates a symbol from a string. Delay execution. Expression. Intro. Here we go. This is feeling better. Oh no, this is just dplyr. It's not even. It just took me to the dplyr documentation there. Articles. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, here we go. So by well, this is the double bracket, so that's just for one. So it's like we want this, but expanded to multiple items. By custom
So which board are we just looking at? We're just looking at the 1.21.1,
writing your own dplyr
right?
functions.
Okay. And then can we go to the 1.20?
They've also changed this a couple of times, so I feel
Yeah,
like this
here we go.
should be something good in here.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if lazy eval. Okay, yeah, so it is still used. Okay, so maybe we can try lazy eval instead.
Two preferred ones are standing for
See what that gives us.
some validation.
Calls. Oh, it's like the same thing, but
I think
it's
the good one
being
that
it's actually being used in here. Man, it should be like way easier to do this.
I agree.
So, okay, hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. All right, here we go. This is it. This is it. Map character calls, and then we're gonna pass that. Let's do function x, and then we'll hop into the browser here. Oops.
Can you use like deparse substitute?
No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do this. Um, so I just had that function, but whatever. So it's like this map character, and then calls function x, and then that. That's what we want. Columns. And then columns, whatever. Let's see if that works. But then we want to remove these as well, which I don't know if that's going to help. Oh my god. I accidentally had it in the old format. I've come full circle, right? Because if we do this, can't coerce one element from a symbol to a character. So let's see where this is happening in here. So we've got our columns, and but I mean, if I do this, then I still get. So, oh no, you might be right. It was x.
Can you just put that into the bracket notation now?
Yeah, yeah, I should be able to. There it goes.
Okay.
That was way harder than it had to be.
let me look at this now again just to make sure it's
Yeah,
what's going on.
yeah, so given a list, you can pass it the names that you want. Um, right, WT. You can do as many as you want. And that's obviously coming from this. But someone's written a better function to do this, right?
I don't know if they have because I've looked for them.
Well, there's probably a million things that could go wrong with how small I wrote that. But this is actually kind of cool because what if we had this list as list empty cars, right? And this is A, and this is B, whatever, right? Oops. So here we've got nested stuff, right? Nested lists. And so here we say we want, um, what is this, select list?
Yeah, it's probably just gonna grab
A,
hopefully the
and then
top.
you could do select list. Oh no, yeah, you're right. Because it's like what we were talking about earlier, right? Um, it's always going to give you that first thing. So it would be interesting to figure out a nice way to like do like that nested selection. Um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I think you could uh yeah, I think you could just from there like pass it. I think it would be really confusing if you were like, okay, take this list and select A MPG and B MPG
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm wondering. So,
because then they would come back in whatever format. I mean, yeah, that's getting complicated. I feel like you could just do
well, I think that this makes. Hold on. Like, oh, but it removed the names. That's the problem here. Yeah.
can you
Yeah, go ahead.
use your function before you lose it before I lose it?
Oh, yeah, sorry,
I,
sorry.
I love that it works though.
Oh, it's just like keep it as is before we break it. Is that what you're saying?
Just I wanted select list like actually can you just copy it to the
Yeah, to
chat
Slack. Yeah, totally, totally. Advanced star.
because I'm actually going to play around with it and use it the next time I want to do this.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think it would be a fun function to make more robust. Like, here I do think it would be kind of cool to to just give you back like, okay, here we go. So this gives us everything without the names, but then this gives us names that we don't like. But if there was a way,
Try using set names,
well, but with what?
right? To give it, do you want to pull the names from the original list and use it to set to the new no the new vectors,
Well,
right? Because this
yeah,
is all coming out.
yeah. So I mean, so here we're. Let me just see what happens if I do that. No, that doesn't work. I don't think.
Hmm.
No, because then we would drop anything that we've selected anyways. Yeah, so like I don't like this renaming that or not the renaming, but well, what happened? Yeah. Yeah, it's pulling out these nested names. It's dropping this, right? And then getting all these, but it's just not working for me because here it does everything I want except the renaming. Like it gives us all of this back, but it had to be dumb about it and add in this name. And there's got to be something in here that will use names recursive. No, I mean maybe there's not. Oh well, whatever. So, yeah. So we did some subsetting. We talked about some data frames. We talked about lists and matrices and how they're related to data frames, and then we talked some per. So I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts or questions, or if this was useful. You can say it's not. It's totally fine. I don't want to waste people's time. So just let me know how it's going.
I liked it. I
Yeah,
mean, this is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I think it'd be great because I mean, it's like, hey, check out this chapter. Do you have any questions about it? Let's just hang out, talk some more, and I think it's useful to have. So
I mean it's always refreshing to find out that other people are having the same the same issues with R that I am,
Yeah.
right? Like it's always nice to know, like, oh, okay, so I struggled finding this way to subset a list just like everybody else did.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's nothing new. So if it's okay, what I'll end up doing is editing this and cleaning it up and making sure that that it's all going to work. Christian, I haven't. I don't know if you said anything. I'm gonna unmute you. Um, oh, there
Now,
you are.
sorry everyone. Can you actually hear me still?
Yeah, I can.
You must have heard me. I assumed that it was not working because I connected through a VM where I have my data stuff,
Gotcha.
and I never used it for a conference, so I figured the mic wasn't coming through the actual host. So I
Oh,
just
okay.
kept on
Gotcha.
typing away, but I was reading and watching all you guys. So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's all
this
good.
was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, welcome. It's gonna get more fun as the we progress in the book because there's all that class stuff that will be interesting, and then obviously functional programming. So, yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Thanks, guys, for coming.
Thanks. See you next
Awesome.
time.
Yeah, take it
Yeah.
easy.
Thanks for hosting.
Alrighty,
Have a
bye.
good weekend.